two. Hello and welcome. Barry Laminack, you guys, thanks for joining the chat. This will mark the 30th live chat in a row because Alice Little joins me tonight. Alice, thank you for saying yes. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. Thank you for saying yes to doing this, man. I always appreciate you saying yes when I call upon you and say, hey, will you join me for something?
Always. Always. It is my pleasure. And it's not like I have a whole lot of other places to be right now.
That's the funny thing is I always feel like I don't want to like hit people up and be like, hey, I know you don't have shit going on because none of us do. So let's do May 1st. I always have to ask, what's your schedule like the first week of May? And literally every person has been like, bro, I'm fucking wide open. There's literally nothing going on.
It's true. It's like, hold on, I need to schedule that somewhere between first breakfast, second breakfast, and power nap. I don't know, my schedule's looking pretty busy.
I am so digging these naps and shit. Is that what you're doing too? Like I feel like this has turned me into an older man than I am already.
I think we're all gonna have to be re-domesticated on the other side of this. Like, these are pants, wear them. No body anymore. Like, we're all
Here's how you put them
now.
on. What have you been doing to keep yourself busy? Like, how have you, because I told you before we went live, I was like, yo, these chats are one of the things that I was like, I'm going crazy. I'm used to being on stage at night when I'm not on radio during the day, and I don't have that anymore. I'm doing the radio from the house, so that's cool, but this filled a void for me. What are you doing to stay busy?
Oh my gosh, running around like a crazy person outside. I've been going for hikes constantly, horseback riding, taking the dogs out, just leaning into the fact that I've got a little bit of time to enjoy the fact that we're right in this beautiful part of spring.
Yeah, no doubt. And you are located in Nevada, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Yeah.
I'm on the northern side of the state, so we're not sweltering like Vegas. It's gorgeous. Like, it was 73, 74 this afternoon, bright and sunny. I took the horse out for a trail ride and just could not have been better.
So jealous. I'm in Houston where it's just fucking hot. We have two seasons. We have hot as shit and really fucking hot. So we don't get lucky to have that. My mom used to live in Reno, so I kind of get it. That whole area, you guys
That's
get
where I'm at in Reno right now.
Yeah, you guys get 4 seasons. It's so fucking. You get real snow and shit. It's amazing. You guys are lucky.
It is a gift for sure. I love this area.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're just surrounded by so much natural beauty. That's what I keep telling everyone. You don't know what to do? Go. There's the door. Go for a walk. Go see whatever it may be in your area, because I promise, if you walk long enough in the same direction, you will find something you have not seen before.
That's a fact. I'm gonna have to tell my wife that because there's a creek right behind me that we have never walked down to, and apparently there's a hiking trail that runs along. We've never gone down there, and every day we're just like, man, we're so bored. What are we gonna do on the weekends? What are we gonna do? I'm gonna tell her this weekend. Because of you, I'm gonna be like, let's go. Now she might tell me to fuck off because she don't want to go for a hike, but I'm gonna try.
Well, here's what you do. Here's what you do.
Okay.
You don't tell her that you're going for a hike. What you do is you get like a picnic basket and you get it all set up with whatever she likes, all of her little favorite snacks, get a couple of little mini champagne bottles, like load the whole thing up and be like, we're going somewhere, come with me, and then just
Walk to the
do
creek.
it. Just do it. Don't even give her the choice of it. Just be like, you will have fun. Come on, let's
See,
go.
this is why you are who you are, and I'm fat and barely hanging on because that's such a. I would have been like, let's go get hot and sweaty and walk near the mud and shit. And you're like, no, dumbass. Take a fucking picnic basket and treat her like a lady. Oh, yeah.
Hey, just because restaurants are closed doesn't mean you can't do like a date night or a date day something. I mean, it's especially right now when so many of us are spending time with someone, isolated with them. I mean, inevitably, you're going to end up bickering with the person that you're quarantining with. So make time to do fun stuff too. Like, you have to put it out there. And then for those like myself that are doing this solo, it's like, go romance yourself. Like, yes, say yes to the wine, set up some cheese, like treat yourself,
Do
you
you
know?
do you do you do that before you're intimate with yourself? Do you set it all up and have like a and wine and dine yourself and make
Yeah, why
make a night
not?
of
Why
it?
not make a little event of it? It's like, shoot, you know, if this
Alice,
is our life situation right now, we might as well make the best of it. And it's like, I don't know what your best life includes, but mine definitely looks like bubble baths and wine with like the little tea light candles all stereotyped out. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'm doing this. Yup, and I feel zero guilt for it.
I'm telling you right now, if my wife walked in, not just caught me masturbating, but if I had candles on and some mood music, she would leave, and not because I was masturbating, but because she'd be like, "You don't do that for me, you son of a bitch. Why?" So I
Well,
can't.
see,
I just have to like get in a
that's
closet and shame
oh,
myself, and then yeah. That way it's fair, right? Like I can't be more intimate with myself than I am with her. That's probably not a good thing. Now, for those that don't know, I mean, I tweeted it out, but there and a lot of folks that listen. And by the way, I have a chat window up, so folks that are watching on Facebook and YouTube can chat along with us, and I see them from both of the platforms. And if they
oh,
have
that's great.
questions, yeah, so I can respond accordingly or ask the questions or whatever. So I try to give folks shout outs and stuff. So if you guys have questions, but for those of you that don't know that are joining us already or watching later, because these do get saved, Alice is the number one, and this is still true, correct? I don't want
It is.
to. The number one highest paid sex worker in the United States of America. There is nobody better at her job than her. Is that a factual statement?
I would certainly say so. I have figured out my way around the art of romance.
What is the number one question that people ask you? Because I don't want to ask that. And I don't even want the answer. I just want to know. I have a feeling it's something to the effect of, how did you get to the point you're at? But what is usually the first question people ask you?
Ooh, knowing very little about me, first question that people ask is either how old are you or how tall are you? Because I look very young and I'm super petite. Like I'm 4'8"
Yeah.
tall. And then instantly there's people for a curveball. They're like, what is happening? What do I do with this tiny little red? Hold on. How old are you? How tall are you? I need to know these things.
That's the first thing people ask. That's great. Now, you do look
Oh my
young.
God,
If
constantly.
somebody is watching right now with the sound off, and if it was being closed captioned, they would be like, Barry's about to get arrested. He's talking about masturbation with that child on there. And because you are so young and looking and petite, like you said, and I'm not going to ask how old you are, but four
Oh,
eight.
it's okay. I'm totally proud of it. I turned 30 in 2 days' time.
No shit. Well, happy birthday. You are a Taurus
Thank
because my
you.
mother is a Taurus, May
I
20th.
sure
So
am.
you are a Taurus, which means you're redheaded. You were born in Ireland, so you're Irish. A Taurus. Oh boy, you are a
And
handful.
I'm petite,
And
so
you're
you've got that whole
petite.
Napoleon complex thing going too.
Wait, do small women get? I know small dudes get that because we're supposed to be
Oh.
big bad tough guys. But petite women get a Napoleon complex?
I I
You
don't
trying to
know if
like
it's a
fight all the
Napoleon
other bitches at the
complex
bunny
so much
ranch?
as
You're
it
like,
is like the Napoleon voice where it's like I'm very tiny, so I go out of my way to make sure that everyone can hear me by projecting just a little bit extra loud.
you really like? Does it make you like if there's like taller chicks at the ranch? Are you like, yo, bitch, don't think for a second that because I'm 4'8", I won't fuck you up, all right? Like, because people don't know this about you. I learned this the first time we had you on the radio. You're into husbandry, which for a second I was like, well, but that's not what you think it is, right? That's that's something else. Tell the people about that because I found that fascinating about you.
Oh, like all the work with the horses and whatnot?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you were
Oh
training at
god.
Belmont. I mean,
I was. I used to be a jockey at the Belmont Racetrack. Used to work with thoroughbred racehorses, which, if you are not familiar, they are somewhere between 16 and 17 hands tall, around 12 to 1,500 pounds of just sheer raw muscle and adrenaline. And Woo boy, you are perched on a tiny little cardboard nothing of a saddle, pretty much, like precariously balanced on just the balls of your feet, and you're just like holding on, and you are somehow supposed to not only be able to manage the horse that is galloping as fast as it possibly can down the racetrack, but now you have to outmaneuver all of these other horses and people that are doing the exact same thing as fast as they possibly can. It's it's a sport and a half, to say the
Well, I
least.
was gonna say because, like you said, you're 4'8". You weigh next to. I have cats that weigh more than you, and but you're on this horse controlling this animal and fighting basically with other because it gets tight in those packs sometimes, and that's
Oh
great.
goodness, yes.
How did you get into that? How specifically did you say? I mean, were you always like, I want to be a jockey one day, or how did you end up training?
Oh, my grandmother made a terrible, terrible mistake when I was young, and before I could even walk, she picked me up and put me on a pony, and that was it. I contracted equine fever and pretty much was a horse mad girl ever since.
Really?
So I
Now,
grew up riding. I used to do 3 day eventing when I was in high school. I used to train other people's naughty ponies. I love horses.
really? That's because I'll be honest. I'm being a lot very honest right now. You're bringing out all the honesty in me. I'm scared to death of horses. If you put me around, first of all, I rode a camel once. That freaked me the fuck out. I have ridden horses before. They're very, very intimidating.
I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like a camel would be like so much more intimidating than the horse. Like,
Mm-mm.
ooh, camels are mean. Horses are just like inquisitive.
I feel like horses bite a lot and they kick. Camels will spit on you, but they're not. I mean, they've got humps and they're like, "Yo, Mike, what day is it? It's swamp day." Like horses are like, "I'll bite the shit out of you, and then when you walk behind me, I'll kick the shit out of you." And I'm bigger than
It
you.
depends on the horse. Like, I have a Welsh pony. He's very, very tiny. He's an overgrown children's pony,
Uh huh.
but he was too rotten to go to another little girl, so my cousin outgrew her naughty pony, and then she gave me her naughty pony because I'm small, but I'm also an adult who's not going to put up with naughty pony antics.
Right.
So he's a big personality, to say the least. Merlin the Houdini. He knows how to undo locks. He can undo knots. He has
No
lifted
shit.
up gates before. Like, he is a very clever little pony. More than once he has broken into the feed room, which is why he's also a little bit of a chunky pony. But that's a different story. But he does have a tendency to be very mouthy. He won't bite so much as he'll try to grab things with his lips. So, like, in the winter time, he'll grab my zipper and he'll pull it all the way down, and then he'll zip it all the way back up, and he'll pull it all the way down. He just thinks it's the greatest fun in the world.
See, no, I was never bit by a horse, but I saw somebody get bit by a horse, and that it looked like it fucking hurt. And it's the
It
same.
hurts. I
That's why I
have
was
been bitten
like,
by a horse.
see, have you been kicked?
Oh, I've been kicked, I have fallen off, I have been stepped on, rolled over, you name it. If you work with horses long enough, it's not if but when. It's kind of like motorcycles. It's not
Right.
when you fall, it's not if you fall off your motorcycle, but when you fall off your motorcycle,
You don't have a
same
motorcycle, do you,
same thing
Alice? Because
occurs.
you're definitely going to be more manly on me than me on
I'll
this whole
tell you.
chat.
I'll tell you, I wanted a motorcycle, but the problem that I have is that I'm so tiny that, like, I
Hmm.
get on the bike and you're supposed to be able to put your
Feet down.
toes on the ground, and I can't put
It's
my
not
toes on the
happening,
ground.
right?
Like, they're all
What if you got
soft.
like
I'd have to get it like modified and lowered or something
no?
ridiculous.
What?
So
Listen,
no bikes
no,
for me.
listen. I've got it. What if we did this for you? We'll get you some really long motorcycle boots, right? Maybe even like your riding boots that you would have when you ride your horse. Now, hear me out. What we're
Okay.
going to do is we'll get you some prosthetic legs made that will
Okay.
you'll almost like stilts, but you won't notice they're stilts because you'll have the boots on. Huh?
That,
Huh?
that could work. That might be something there. It's funny, my very first car, I actually had to put blocks on the pedals because it didn't pull forward close enough.
Did
And
you really?
Well, when you're a kid, you get whatever hand-me-down vehicle the family has available. So it's
Right.
like, oh boy, I am nowhere even close to the pedals on
What
this
kind of
car.
what kind of car was it? Do you remember?
Oh god, it was like some sort of like Chevy tugboat of just this big, monstrous metal frame. Like half of it was rusted out. It had like the old cranks for the windows. Even like
Yes.
it was an old car.
I had a 75 Pontiac. I was in high school in like 1990. I had a 1975 Pontiac Le Mans. It looked like the Batmobile going backwards. It was the biggest boat. I think everybody I don't I feel bad for people that get nice cars as their first car cuz
Oh
you don't
no,
know the struggle. If
that's a
you
privilege that no one really needs. You
no.
don't get a nice vehicle for your first vehicle. Like it's a rite of passage to get the hand-me-down car that is inevitably going to break down, and
Yeah.
now you're left on the side of the highway trying to figure out how do I change a flat tire in a dress and high heels. Carefully
Same.
is the correct
Same
answer,
by the
by the
way.
way.
Same. Carefully. Yeah. I same thing. No, well, I didn't have on a dress and high heels actually, but no. You lived in New York. You came over from Ireland at 5 years old, right? I believe that's what I read, and then you're in New York for a while. How did you? So in the same way that I was curious how you got into horses, you're a sex worker. You're a relationship. What is the right word I'm looking for here? A counselor, right? A relationship, a counselor, an intimacy coach. How did you get into all of this? Because you had the eye on Belmont one day, right?
Yeah, I did. So I gave it a go. It wasn't a perfect career fit. I loved it, but it wasn't a good fit long term. So I was going to college, pursuing other things, and it was my college roommates that just so happened to introduce me to the wide world of BDSM. Their I want to say it was their parents owned a dungeon in New York City, like a private location that people could go to for these kinds of services. And of course, I'm like, get me a job. Get me a
You
job.
were into it right away.
I thought it was the coolest thing on the planet. Like, I could not figure out what was going on, but I knew I wanted to be involved. And so they got me a job working at the front desk of this dungeon. And so I was doing like all the scheduling for when people wanted to come in and see certain dominance or wanted to hire a specific person to work with. And then I also was responsible for setting up all the educational classes that they did for the community. So we'd have like an educational class and bring in a presenter on a specific topic, and then 30 to 50 people would all show up and get to learn from this person. Well, I'd been doing the job for the better part of a year. We hit a horrible, horrible snowstorm like you do in New York, and our presenter can't make it in. And I've got a room of people that have already paid, that are already here, and it's a topic that I had already known a lot about, which happened to be flogging. It's the same motions for flogging that you do for poi, which is essentially some sort of ball on the end of a string, usually lit on fire, and then you're twirling it around in these really intricate patterns. Well, the patterns for flogging are kind of the same movements that you use for poi. So I had already learned how to do flogging and Florentine flogging very, very easily, and had already been teaching people about it on like a one-on-one level. So I just kind of put something together on the spot, and people super enjoyed the class. I was invited to give the same presentation at two other locations in New York, and at one of those locations, I guess one of the people there put together a conference and invited me to speak at their conference, and then I spoke at that one, and then I was invited to other conferences and started traveling around the country teaching all this kinky stuff. And
That's
it was by
crazy.
that it like it gets even crazier too, because like that's where I learned about the ranch, was at one of these events from another educator. She told me about her experience. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. Ooh, I want to try that. And then I never left.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
5 years now.
So you've been at the Bunny Ranch for 5 years, the Moonlight Bunny Ranch.
Sure have.
And did you? So how long ago when you started working at the dungeon?
Oh gosh, that's when I was like 18. Like I jumped right into it. I was like, this is great. Let's go.
Were you like nervous? Because I don't know a lot about that, right? Like I don't know about that scene. I'm not into that. I'm pretty vanilla and boring, and I would be a little nervous and then intimidated at the same time. But it doesn't seem like you were just like, fuck it, I got this. I'm into this.
I was pretty excited. It sounded really fun. The way that they described the environment is just being really friendly and warm and welcoming and accepting of everyone. I was like, that sounds great. Sign me up. I mean, keep in mind, this is a school that had a major art department, which is what my roommates were majoring in. So, like, this was a pretty out there school to begin with in terms of just cultural awareness, where there's not a lot of things that are coming at you out of left field that you don't really expect. You just kind of nod your head and go, yep, that's an art school in New York for you, huh?
That's outstanding. Real quick, I just want to say what's up to everybody in chat. Santos, Brandon, Walt, Hugo, Andy, Rich, what's up, buddy? Chris, Brandon Martinez, David, AR Platinum, like they're all here, and I'm sure they have a million questions. So if you guys do, ask them, say what's up, be cool, don't be a dick. I won't read your questions. Don't correct my spelling, Ultra. That's my hot button. I fucking hate that, Alice. When people correct my spelling online, I lose my shit. And I know I'm a horrible speller, but as soon as they go, hey, it's the wrong there. I'm like, fuck you. I'm an adult. If I fucked it up, who cares? I'm not 5. Don't correct my spelling anymore. And Ultra, this motherfucker, every time on the internet, I had to block him on Facebook, and we're friends. I was like, I swear to God, Alice, if my mom hopped in this fucking chat and corrected my spelling, she's getting fucking blocked. It shouldn't from everything.
The whole table. That's the way to do it.
It's a fucking weird thing I have in my head.
Pet peeves are so funny because every single person has at least one pet peeve that's just like nails on a chalkboard to them.
What is yours? What is yours?
Oh God, lip smacking when eating at nice restaurants. When someone's like,
"Oh my God, you're my spirit animal."
So loud, you hear it across the room. I'm just like, I don't know why. It literally makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up on end, and it's just like, I almost feel like I'm curling into myself. It's like, oh, the sound. Oh.
Have you ever left a restaurant where you're like, fuck this, I can't do this anymore, I gotta go?
I have to be real honest here. I totally struggle to like sit and enjoy a meal with that kind of sound in the background too, because it's like I keep getting distracted by it, and it's like.
So funny. I will literally be somewhere. Now, this, as you know, because you've done the radio show a couple times, I will literally be doing show prep with my co-host and my producer, and we will all be in trying to get this show ready to go and talking, and we've got an hour until airtime, and my producer will start eating chips. And I'm like, I can't fucking do it. I can't listen to people crunch food. If you crunch your food, I hope you go to hell at that moment, not later when you die.
You know what's crazy?
Oh my God. I have to leave the room. Like I leave our production meeting and they're both like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, either it's the chips or me. I don't give a fuck. I can go, do this shit out in the hall, but I can't listen to you crunch chips. I will quit this job before I sit here and listen to this shit.
It blows my mind. There are people, and this is a thing on the internet, ASMR food eating, where it's someone taking like the Blue Yeti microphone and they're whispering into the mic, and then they crunch into whatever it is they're eating, and they produce as many mouth sounds as possible, and it's called a mukbang. It's this whole cultural phenomenon. It started in Korea, but it's made its way to America. I don't understand it. I'm not going to shame anyone.
Oh, I will. Those people are fucking weird. Those people are weird. Okay, I can't do that. I don't understand that. I listened to one of those, and literally within the first 20 seconds, I almost broke my laptop. I was just like, I can't. I just fucking can't do it. I can't do it. And I guess you're like that too with the crunching and stuff, or no? It's not as bad as the.
Only with the food sounds. ASMR without food, totally fine. It's, oh my God. One of the weirdest things I have gotten to do this year, an ASMR sex toy review, where I'm taking the vibrator by the microphone and I'm turning it up so people can hear the vibration pattern, like, and I'm trying so hard to not burst out laughing while I'm recording this because I just think it's the most absurd, funny thing that I have a microphone and now I have a dildo in my hand and I'm like in circles around the microphone so it does the whole little audio effect where it goes from one ear to the other ear. Exactly.
It sounds like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker having a fucking lightsaber fight. Just
it does.
Oh my
with
God.
the vibration pattern, so it's like like I just thought it was so funny. And I remember trying so hard to not just burst out laughing because that distorts the audio and ruins the whole point of it.
Yeah.
And so thankfully my face wasn't on camera. It's
just
like
your
this
hands
close-up shot. And I'm just like biting my other fist to keep from just dissolving into tears because it was so entertaining to me.
So was this something where like a product, or was this a request from a client or customer or whatever? Or, I don't know what you call. What do you call them? Clients, customers?
Adam and Eve.
It was for what?
Adam and Eve, the sex toy company.
Really? They wanted you to do it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And if you type in ASMR sex toy review, my videos will be like some of the very first ones to pop up with Adam and Eve, and it's pretty funny. I get a kick out of it.
Okay, look. As a stand-up comedian and somebody that tries not to take life too serious, it would be really hard to do what you do for me for a myriad of reasons. But probably the biggest would be I would just be laughing a lot at people or things like that, or like, I don't know, it would be hard for me to take a lot of that serious. And I know some people do. Like, some people are like, this is my thing. This is what turns me on. There's nothing funny about it. But I guess because I'm so boring and vanilla that I'm just like, okay, that's fucking crazy, or that's funny as shit, or that's like that, like you said, does that happen often, or are you like pretty mature about the whole thing and you're like, well, this is what they're into, fuck it, I don't care?
Honestly, it's not so much what people are into that makes me laugh so much as it is the weird, like, sex products that sometimes I get sent to review. That's my biggest struggle. Like, okay, here's another great example. Yeah. Are you familiar with a flashlight where it looks like a flashlight, but it's actually a little sleeve?
I know what they are. I don't have one. I just want to point that out to everybody in the chat, Rich and Roland.
Okay,
and
all right.
guys.
I'm going to take you up on that. I actually think that every single guy should have one, because I'll tell you right now, whatever you're doing with your hand is probably too hard, and as a result, it's having a bad effect on your sex life. And the whole idea of a fleshlight is that it's closer to the real thing, so this way, when you're with your partner, it feels better for them because you're like already practicing being with them in a way, if that makes any sense.
Okay, you know what it does, because I had read somewhere, or somebody had told me, but they said that it's not always great to masturbate, but if you do, instead of watching porn, you should just fantasize about your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it
whatever the fantasy is. Yeah, instead of watching porn, that's a real thing.
Because when you finally do have sex with that person, it's actually more arousing and intimate and everything. It's not as just desensitized. So it's like you come faster, and you like, it's just that the experience is different for you, but it's also different for them because of the way you treat it. So that's kind of what you're saying is, look, there's the closer you can get to that person without, now don't put their face on the fleshlight, because then that's just fucking weird. But the closer you can get to the real thing, the better.
Mm-hmm. Because there's two different things that tend to happen with a lot of porn use. The first is something called porn-induced erectile dysfunction, or PIED for short. Essentially, your mind and body becomes so used to this like super extreme level of stimulation and visualization that anything less than like hardcore porn, your body's like, I'm not showing up to this party.
This sucks.
Pretty much. And then the other thing that happens is called death grip syndrome. And death grip syndrome is what happens when you habitually touch yourself too much and too hard and too frequently with no lube, and eventually you are just going at it as hard as and tight as you can, and you're literally choking the life out of your body, which is horrible, and it damages your nerves and has really bad implications for when you go to have sex with a partner, because, sorry guys, your man-sized hand, your man-sized fist is inevitably going to be tighter than any woman on the planet, and you are going to be dissatisfied forever if that is your expectation level.
I never, ever thought of that. It was like, that's pretty crazy.
You know.
Look at that. I just wanted to fucking hang out. Now I'm learning that I got to work on my grip. It's like bowling. It's like you've got to have the right grip is everything, right?
I'll bring it back full circle here.
Okay.
So like I was saying, people send me all these ridiculous things to review, and you kind of all now know what a fleshlight is.
Sure.
I was once sent a beer light. It was supposed to look like a fake beer can, but then you take off the bottom and there's vagina inside.
So it's
yep.
So you would take this, shout out Bud Light. They're probably like, please don't show our fucking tough shit, Bud Light.
Random fake beer label.
Go show Coors Light on this conversation.
Fake too.
So they would have a vagina down there?
Yep, and you just kind of pulled the bottom off and then surprise reveal. And there was a little hole in the lid section to like allow for airflow from the top.
Oh yeah, because you can't just
But the problem was
at that point.
The toy wasn't super well made either. And so the problem was that you would press into this thing and you would hear it audibly like
it's like fucking a squeaky screen door.
It's so like you press into it, it's like
no one wants no. Look, most dudes when they're jerking off, we don't want people knowing. It's supposed to be quiet. Bud Light or whoever made that. I don't want it given away. I don't want my wife to be like, the fuck again?
Happening?
He's drinking again. You know what I mean? Like, that's fucking hilarious.
I could not get over the squeak of that thing. It was so ridiculous. Like that, I could not keep a straight face.
And you had to review that?
Here's another really good one. A company sent me a sex doll to review.
Okay.
Cool. I'm like, oh my god, you want to send me a life-size sex doll and it's taller than I am? All right, let's do this. I'm totally game to review this. Well, this thing comes in this giant box. UPS wheels it up, Sky rings the door.
So
I have to
immediately,
sign for it.
there's no discreetness. It's like, here's your big fucking sex doll right on the door.
Oh, I mean, the box was discreet. You had no idea what was in it. But the guy, he's like, oh, what's in here, a body? And I lose it at that point. I now lose it, and I'm like, and he's like, all right, story time. And I'm like, if you have a minute, I will open this up. We can do show and tell right here, right now, Mr. UPS man. And we did. And I discovered in that moment that the doll's head ships apart and off of the body. And so that is in a separate styrofoam thing. And to mount the head onto the body, you mount it sideways, and then you have to snap the head into place.
You have to kill the fucking doll to have sex with it. You have to Jean-Claude Van Damme in a movie, just snap. Now we have sex. That is so fucking funny, Alice. Oh my God.
I couldn't handle it. I thought it was so funny, and it was so bad too, because like the eyes are set into it, but the problem is they're not like really attached. They're just kind of set into the silicone.
Oh.
So one of the eyes was off center, and it was just like the most horrifying, ridiculous,
They said you were Forrest Whitaker sex doll.
Hair on. It's just like, what is happening? And of course, the thing has anime-shaped proportions, so it doesn't have,
Yeah.
boobs. It has boobs. It
Oh my God! They sent you a cross-eyed sex doll.
Yep,
Holy
it's really
fuck!
funny. It's
Did
gonna sound crazy, but I just finished doing a video for my YouTube channel demonstrating how to give your partner a massage using the back of the sex doll because while social distancing, I couldn't exactly sit someone down and massage them. So it's like, right, we're gonna do this with this sex doll here, and we're gonna all pretend like this is really not weird. Let's do this.
so? Did you use the cross-eyed one? I guess you kept it.
Yeah, I mean, her eye.
Do you still
She's
have it?
longer.
Is it there in the
She's got
house?
football.
Can
Oh,
we
of course
see
I have
it?
her in my house. She weighs like 110
Oh, never mind. I don't want you to have
pounds.
to work
I mean,
out.
she
Oh,
is a. I'll send
damn.
you a photo afterwards so you can share it with everyone. I've got her like bent into the massage chair right now because that's the last thing I was doing with it because I don't really do much with it
Alice.
other than like, hey, let me use this as an anatomical display model. Like, that's pretty much what it gets used for these days, is sex education or
Uh,
back rub education in this case. And I mean, it's this whole thing, and the limbs are posable, and the fingers are posable, and it
oh,
has fake acrylic nails on it. But the worst part, and this is where they made a slight design flaw, I think, with the sex doll, they didn't put the little tensile rods in the toes, so you hit the toes and they just kind of jiggle. And it's really creepy.
like a doorstop. You just acted. Fuck. That's.
Oh yeah, but there's no brr. It's just like these floppy little
Oh.
toes. It's got the fake acrylics on them, and you're just like, whoa. Okay.
That is. Oh my
Wow.
God. And they're trying to sell these.
Yeah, and they do all the time. They're super popular.
Oh my
But I have
God.
to say though, it's real weird when I have to have like someone from maintenance come over to my house, like, oh, okay, let me show you where it's making the weird electrical noise. Don't just ignore that. That's a sex. Just shh, it's fine. Just ignore that. It's not weird. Here's what I do. Just
Don't worry about that. And that squeaky door sound. Don't worry. My cousin's here. He's just experimenting with some.
It's fine. Just we're gonna go right past it. It was one of the funniest things is that I had it. Like I didn't know where to put it, so I'm like, oh, I'll just sit it down on my couch, right?
Right.
So I go to do my coffee show one day, and I go and I look at the doll, and I kind of lean forward because something's on its lap. My cat had crawled into the lap of the sex doll, thinking that it was like a person and was trying to convince the doll to give her attention.
Oh fuck.
Oh yeah, all
Oh.
over the sex doll. And I'm like, Luna, oh my god, you're getting your hair all over the silicone. This is gonna be a nightmare to clean up. Oh my god, don't have to claw the damn sex doll. And she just thinks it's the greatest thing. She's like, oh, it's so
Just
soft.
kneading on it. Playing with the toes. Oh my God.
Yeah, oh
You-
yeah, she's like rubbing her face against him, just like doing the whole cat thing. It's like, oh.
Jesus, that
Boy.
is fucking hilarious.
And this
That's
is my life.
and this is just like 2 or 3 different things. I can't imagine. Like this has to be pretty regular that you'll get some weird shit or some wild shit or people just ask you to do some weird shit. What's the weirdest thing? And not necessarily from a client or anything, but maybe it was the ASMR dildo thing. But what's the weirdest thing that you've had to turn down because you were like, nah, that's just too much.
Ooh, it was probably the time that somebody wanted me to take one of the thrusting vibrators. They wanted me to penetrate an open jar of peanut butter, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. That was my limit.
That
Look,
is your
you are
limit, Alice?
That was my limit. I could not. I was just
Why?
like, you know what? That doesn't need
Get
to
the fuck out
happen.
of here.
I'm
That is not.
First
You're
off-
like you'll. Okay, now I'm gonna get graphic for a second because there's no way if some dude was like, "Hey, pee on me," you're like, "Cool," but I'm not shoving that
Right, no
dildo
problem.
in that peanut butter. That is where I draw the line, pal. You know, no
Oh,
one
God.
runs good peanut butter.
I think what really got me, and I don't know why this got me.
You're
was being
serious about this?
specified.
I thought you were just
I'm
fucking
dead
with me.
serious. No, I'm dead serious. They specified that they wanted it to be the chunky style peanut butter where the oil separates from the peanut butter, like you know how it does in the natural one where it's like separated. So you've got like the smooth layer, the chunky layer, and then the oil.
Yeah, that's the
They
gross
literally
stuff.
wanted to see it like penetrate through all. I just, oh my god, like I'm getting chills thinking about it. It just was like, oh no, man, you're gonna have to ask someone else to do that for you. I can't do that sex toy review in good conscience. I don't. First off, I don't want to do it. I don't want to film it. I don't want to put that on my channel. That's that's my line.
Yo,
And
how
you're
much? How
talking
much
to
did they
someone
offer?
that cut a papaya in half once. And like someone's like, "Oh, could you do like the sex toy papaya photo where a papaya, if you split it the right way, it could kind of look like a girl and you could kind of make it look erotic, but not really." Not a problem. Totally fine. You want me to cut an orange in half? Same thing. Not a problem. Peanut butter?
Not having. Do you have like a peanut allergy, or do you just have a fucking?
No.
I can say,
I
I'd be
don't
like,
even know what it
sir,
was.
that'll kill
But
me.
okay,
Like, I'm
I
not doing
want it
that.
to be the chunkiest, oiliest peanut butter you could find.
Oh,
I was like,
fuck.
I can't handle it. It's just like when I'm thinking of sex toys, chunky, oily peanut butter does not compute
Not
to me
happening.
as.
So this was okay. Wait. So this was a client that asked you to do this, and they would pay you,
Oh
or
no,
a company?
this was a company. The toy
What?
itself looked like a banana, and I guess eating bananas and peanut butter is a thing, so they wanted this like close-up video of their banana thrusting toy penetrating the peanut butter, and oh, I couldn't do it.
Are you?
I literally couldn't do it.
First of all, now I'll never eat bananas and peanut butter again because that
You're
was a
welcome.
thing. I'm done with that. But are you sure they just didn't send you like a euphemism? Like hey, we want you to shove this banana in that peanut butter. Are you sure that they were just trying to like tiptoe around their real request and you just took it
No,
literally?
no. Like they were being very specific. Like, please make sure to use a razor to remove the label off of the peanut butter because it has to be
What?
unlabeled peanut butter. We can't show the logoing in the screen. This was a dead serious request from like a major company who I will not name and shame,
I,
but
I, I don't blame you.
I still
Wow.
work for this company and I really like them, but I had to say no. That one was a
Okay,
little bit
can I
too
can I
much.
ask you just give me a ballpark between a range of a low end and a high end. What did they offer you to do this? Because I'm curious. Because I'm a hoe.
Oh,
I will. If somebody was like, "Here's $50, shove this dildo in that bowl of pudding," and then I'm like, "Let's go." That's PayPal. That to Laminac. Like I'm a hoe. I'll do it. Like what? What did you
it was
turn down?
actually like several $100s was what the review amount was, and I don't know what it was, but I had like this visceral gut reaction to the idea of chunky, oily peanut butter, and then having to,
It's
and
so
then
fucking
act as if
gross.
I was somehow was like that I was okay doing this with like a smile, like I
That is so
couldn't do
funny.
it. I
That's
couldn't do it.
now.
And I have done so much stuff. I have reviewed so many crazy things that I could not do
Do
the
you
peanut
get asked
butter.
to do a lot of weird shit at the ranch too? I don't. My guess is like on occasion, but I don't know. I mean, like I feel like sometimes guys would go there because they're either embarrassed or don't know how to fulfill a fantasy, and because it might be really weird or really out there. But then
And
sometimes guys just
I
go
only
because they have their own old and different reasons. Do you get a lot of weird requests?
I it's hard for me to put it into like context because I don't have any stigma or shame around sex. I don't think that sexuality, kink or fetish is anything to be like ashamed or disgusted by. Like, hey, if it turns you on and you're not hurting anybody else and we're both two sound-minded consenting adults and that brings you pleasure, two thumbs up. Like, that's not weird. Cool. Like, all right, who am I to tell you that balloons are weirder than vibrators? Like, I don't care. It's just whatever your thing is. Some people are like, oh, feet, that's weird. Or, oh, balloon fetish, that's weird. And it's like, no, actually, if you like really think about and understand some of these fetishes and like where they kind of come from, it makes sense. Like feet, that's a super common one.
Yeah.
The reason why that's a thing is that in our brains, the sensation we get from like a foot rub that feels so good, right next to the same spot that feels great when you have an orgasm in your brain. The two spots are right next to each other.
Really?
And Yeah, so some people get stimulation across both sections of that brain when they interact with feet. So interacting with feet or having their feet interacted with gives them that kind of orgasmic, like pleasure sensation in their brain.
I always,
Like, cool, that's awesome.
yeah, I feel like I read somewhere that a lot of fetishes are developed out of childhood when something significant or maybe a moment of arousal will occur at a specific moment. Like maybe you're, as a kid, maybe you're at the foot of a woman and you for some reason or whatever, maybe it's the first time you ever feel arousal, and so that kind of spurs, oh, I was there, that's it, or whatever it ends up being, pain, because it may be associated with something traumatic that was, I don't know, but I always read that a fetish was kind of developed like that. But what do you think,
It
or what do
can.
you know? Where do we get our fetishes from?
I think that fetishes are inherent, that every single person has
Mm-hmm.
something that does it for them, whether you're a boob guy or an ass guy, or you like long legs, or you like leather and latex. Like, the theory, the idea that they come from this psychological origin, that's only a theory that hasn't been proven necessarily to hold true across the full spectrum of things. I think it much more so depends on the individual, but I absolutely believe that every single person has something that they're a little bit kinky about
Mm-hmm.
or kind of into. And unfortunately, we're in a society that is already like, oh, gasp and pearl clutch, sex. Oh my gosh, we can't say the name of body parts on TV. We have to call it a vajayjay.
Yeah.
So, like, we certainly, as a society, cannot handle the idea that someone might become aroused by the idea of urine. Like, we're not at that level of maturity. Like, American culture, societally, we're like at a second grade level where we're like, shh, we don't talk about our no parts. And it's like, hey, guys, if you're listening, guess what? Someone had sex and then they conceived you through sex and then you were born. Did you know? Did you know that that's where people come from, is from other people having
And
sex?
having those people like,
Like,
no,
oh,
storks. No way. I was told storks.
hey,
That Alice, she's
oh
the
boy.
devil. I was told storks.
Oh, if you want to hear, all right,
Yeah,
this is some crazy stuff right here.
please.
Only 13 of the 50 states have, as part of law, that sex education must be scientifically accurate. 13.
What?
13 out of 50. That means that in the majority of the United States, schools could teach the stork story as if it were fact.
That's fucked up. That I would rather them just not teach anything at all, because you're putting these poor kids at a huge disadvantage. Like then it's like you've got these
Gee, and
kids.
then we wonder why there's teenage pregnancy in
Yeah,
Texas.
yeah.
Wow!
And you wonder, yeah, is Texas one of them? I could imagine. Oh
It
fuck.
happens
We're
to be up
doomed.
there on the teenage pregnancy statistics, but there's a.
Because
It's unfortunate that it's like you would assume that sex ed is something that would just like was taught, or like even for doctors, we make the assumption that doctors must get some sort of like real quality sex ed to become doctors. Do you know what the mandate is for a doctor? A PhD, 3 hours. 3 hours of sex
really,
education is all that is required. Like,
wow. That's not. I
wrap your
don't.
mind around that.
That is fucking weird. Because then your doctor's like, well, no. What we're gonna do is it appears that your pee pee don't work. It's like what? I don't want to. I want my doctor to talk to me like I'm a fucking adult and be like, well, your bird doesn't work and then her bees isn't working. And like, what the fuck, man? Are we really 3 hours of education? Because I was lucky. Like we had sex ed in our school, and they actually taught, you know, sex ed. It was like legitimate. I grew up here in Houston, and we learned about sex, and it was always though it's always a coach that teaches it, and that's the weirdest fucking thing because it's usually in health class, and I don't know why coaches teach health because most football coaches are fat, but that was the guy that taught health and sex ed, and then they would answer questions, but he was always real mature about it. But what was crazy is, Alice, 90% of the people in my class had no idea about any of that. And when I was 8, my mom, or 10, or I think maybe 8, my mom sat me down and told me where babies come from. She taught me the different body parts and what everything was. And it was a very mature conversation to have with an 8-year-old. But then I was like, oh, okay, that's it. It's no big deal. That's where I think the problem is. If you hide it from kids and teenagers, you make it taboo. It's not taboo until you make it taboo. Because I'm in that class
and
going...
It's all about age-appropriate sex education. There's sex education for a 5-year-old, which is you have a penis or vagina and nobody has permission to touch that.
Yep.
You need to know what that body part is called. You need to know what is and is not okay. Because if you don't, you run into situations where you have a little girl saying, "Uncle likes my cookie" or something. This was one that was in the news not too long ago. Jesus. And it was just the most horrifying thing to realize that,
that's what
God almighty, this poor child's, trying to say that she's being molested, and no one has given her the language to be able to communicate that appropriately. Like, that's setting our kids up not only to fail, but it's also setting them up to be taken advantage of too. So I'm not a parent here, but I really do think that kids need a certain level of sex education. And if you as a parent don't want to give it to them, hey, dude, not a problem. You don't have to. No. Just make the resource available. Like right now, there are a number of sex educators that work within school districts that are putting out curriculums online for distance sex education learning. So you can just park your kid in front of the computer and just be like, "You're going to watch this, answering your questions when you're done watching it. See you in an hour, kid."
My mom was like we didn't have the internet, but my mom would always tell me, she said, because she taught me the body parts at like 8 and was like, this is where a baby comes from, a man and a woman, they make love, this goes here. I mean, it was a very basic thing, but it was so that I knew what it was. And then as I got older, she would be like, listen, she bought me condoms at 14 because she was like, I don't know when you're going to do it, but I don't want you to get anything or give anything or get a girl pregnant. So whenever you're ready or whenever these fit, here you go. But she was always an open book. Like I could go to her and, ask her, what is a clitoris? Why do I need to be concerned about that? Or where's the G spot? I swear to God, I was 15 years old. I think I'm in high school already. And I remember, what's the G spot, Mom? Because we didn't have the internet. And of course, that's not in the encyclopedias. So I was like, Mom, what the fuck is the G spot? So she sat down and drew me a map like I was trying to get to Astro World and shit. She was like, all right, now it's right up in there. And then she drew me a map of where it was. But that was her.
That's great.
Oh, it was. But you know what, though? I never had any misconceptions about sex. And it's also really weird is I don't have any taboos. Like I told you, I'm very vanilla. I'm very plain. I don't have any kind of super weird kinks or fetishes or whatever. And I think maybe that might have helped because it never became a big deal to me. It wasn't like, oh, I got to be extreme. It was, I was taught from an early age and it never became a thing. Yeah.
It is literally hard-coded as a desire into our DNA. We are biologically driven to copulate. It's part of life, and to stigmatize it and shame it doesn't do anyone any good.
No.
And that's why I get so confused when people flip out over what I do for a living and they act like it's this big crazy thing, like, oh God, you're a sex worker? And I'm like, yeah, and this is literally known as the world's oldest profession, and we have been in every society since the dawn of time, and we used to be revered, historically speaking. God, if you go back far enough in time, you find that the Catholic Church ran brothels, the military ran brothels, the CIA had sex workers on up their payroll for a situation called Operation Midnight Sun at one point in time. Like,
damn.
Sex workers are here and not going anywhere. So why are we acting like this is such a strange deal?
I think because it always seems like people with the idea of morality it always feels like, anyways, that people who have a higher sense of morality feel like they need to give that to everybody else. And it's not about morals. It's about what's okay with you and what's not considered to be taboo. And just because you think it is, like you said, like me, when you said it's urine's no big deal, I was like, ooh, ugh. But that's me, and that's my own like taboo. But I also wouldn't be like, nope, you should be locked up if you like pee. That's the. It's just, to me, it's different and weird. But at the same time, I'm not gonna begrudge somebody. You know?
In the kink world, there's this phrase that we often say: "Your kink is not my kink," and that is A-okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to demonize what you're into. You don't have to be into what I'm into. You don't have to participate in it. But you know what? If it's consenting between two clear-minded adults, it's not hurting anyone, at least not without anyone's consent and not in the fun, kinky way. Like, hey, you know what? Go have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy the fact that you have the power to consent. Enjoy the fact that we live in a society that allows us to be explorative. I mean, my gosh, let's not forget about the fact that in some parts of the world, literally today in 2020, you can be stoned to death for having gay sex. Like, let's not forget that. It still exists on this planet.
Oh yeah, no, there's places that still exist that you can't show your face as a woman. You literally can't, and that is a thing. By the way, a buddy of mine, Billy D. Washington, who is a comedian as well, he said, "Man, I thought this was Bible study. I'm out." He's so funny. He and I argue about religion all the time, so that's part and parcel of Billy D. But I tell you what, everybody in chat's like, "Man, this is fucking amazing. She is so smart." And I don't think people know what to, I knew what to expect. This is our third time doing an interview, and this is the first time we've actually just been able to talk candidly without the FCC and all their restrictions. So I kind of knew this was going to be awesome. I was so excited when you said yes, because you are such an open book and you do such a great job at normalizing it. Like, you know, I was even hesitant, like, do I call her a sex worker? In my mind, and I'm just being honest, is it offensive to call her a sex worker? Do I say, like,
not at all.
I don't know what to say. But again, this because I'm part of that whole group that, like, it's a little taboo. It's different. I don't know it, you know?
You're not exposed to it. It's not something that's societally normal. Like, if you ask somebody who lives in Nevada, tell me how you would describe Nevada, they're going to be like, we've got gambling and brothels and legal marijuana and great gun laws and really beautiful areas. Come to Nevada, we're great. And like, you don't even blink twice at the idea of a brothel. You're like, yeah, cool, they're here, whatever. Yeah. That's awesome, good for them. Like, there's not this inherent, oh,
right.
Oh my gosh, reaction to it. It's just, hey, it's here. That's cool. That's great.
It's amazing to me. And I'm scanning the chat because I want to see if anybody has any questions for you. Let's see. I think most people, literally, somebody goes, why is the chat dead? And somebody goes, because we're all just fucking listening. It's so great. It's literally, Alice, you broke chat, but in a good way, because I think everybody's just taking notes. Like, all right, no peanut butter. Oh. And no, look, damn, she's really smart.
And if you want to impress your girl, anyone who's in a relationship right now, just go that little extra mile. The picnic, I'm telling you, that's like the secret sauce right there, is the picnic, because it's the effort of not only cooking, but then putting it all together, getting the blanket and the silverware and the basket and finding a spot. Like,
that's the key right now in this quarantine.
That's some real effort right there. Like, she's gonna be like, yeah.
Is that what it's about?
Put some effort into that. I do feel special.
That's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think in general men are pretty much just like, we're visual. We're visual creatures. If we can see your breasts, if we can see your ass, if we can see whatever it is that we're into, we're turned on. That's what we want. And then we're done in the transaction. We're happy campers. You want to snuggle? A lot of us will. We don't give a shit. We'll act like we don't to our friends. Every dude in this chat is snuggling and cuddling and, no, but when did you come to? Because I care. And every dude does that. They just don't admit it. What are women?
Absolutely.
I know women are physical creatures.
Not, but I'll tell you, every single dude right after sex becomes the most cuddly little kitten on the planet. No shame. And I'll tell you right now, your girl probably thinks it's like the greatest thing on the planet. And let me go ahead and answer the question that no one's asking, which is, yes, your girl probably has told her friends exactly how adorable you are afterwards, and that's a good thing because it's going to make her friends really like you if you're good to her.
Oh,
Just
see,
saying,
look at that.
it's
See,
a thing.
I'm gonna write that
I
down.
got you.
No, I'm not gonna write that down. My wife would be like, "What? Cuddle and impress her friends? Give me that goddamn phone. I'm deleting your notes." What? But okay, so we know men are physical for the most part. There are some men that have emotional ties to sex and relationships and stuff. But what is it that women are into? I know in a way you guys are physical and you like a nice looking man or whatever it is. But I always felt like, and I've always been told, I was raised by two women. I've always been told women are more emotional. They're more not about physical. They're about how you treat them. They're about how you make them feel. They're about all those things. Is that true too? Is that why the picnic works? Because you could be the worst dude in the
They
sack, but if you make a nice picnic, she's gonna love you.
they certainly can be. Of course, every single
Sure.
individual and every single relationship is going to be different in terms of like what are they looking for. With the way that I like to look at it is this: intimacy exists on a spectrum, and there's different facets of intimacy, so sex and cuddling, but then you have like your emotional intimacy, which is getting to then share your fears right now about this crazy pandemic and getting to confide in your loved one and share that like emotional connection of, wow, I am worried. Or then there's the experiential intimacy where you get to go and do something together and then have this moment that you share and then get to reflect back on the memory. Like, that's kind of the beauty of a picnic, is that it creates an opportunity for all three types of intimacy, where there's this experience that's happening, but you're also getting to have this beautiful conversation, and then afterwards you're probably going to get physical too. So it's like, check, check, check. Yes, this works.
And if I'm wrong, tell me. But I feel like with most women, if you can give them the picnic, if you can give them your attention, if you can provide them, with the emotional side of things, the sex is going to be really good because they're going to be super turned on about that shit. Like a picnic, if a woman did have a dick, hard as a rock as soon as she sees the picnic basket, right? Like, I mean, that means a lot. So you're going to get better sex out of the deal too.
Yep. He went out of his way to put this whole thing together and set it up and bring the champagne, and wow.
Yeah.
That's the emotional reaction that happens as a result, is just this wow, especially if like no one has ever done something like that before. For her, it holds an even higher meaning. And you're like, oh, it's just a picnic, but it's the intention. It's like you could go really next level if you wanted to and be like, I'm gonna go ahead and pick some flowers out of the garden and handwrite a note, and then what I'm gonna do is have the vase, put the flowers in it, and then I'm gonna tie the note around the flowers, and then I'm gonna tie it off with her favorite colored ribbon to show her that I'm that level of thoughtful. Like, when you just keep adding all those tiny little intentional details, it culminates in this thing where you're just like, damn.
Yeah. See, but here's the problem, Alice. We're fucking idiots. We don't think you would make a great husband. You really would. You would make someone, or you would make a lesbian a wonderful husband. If there's a lesbian out there looking for an amazing husband, Alice Little is the husband you want, because we're fucking dumb.
I've been described as a lot of things, but the perfect husband is a new one for me. That's hysterical.
We're fucking dumb. Like, we don't think about those things. I'm just like, well, I mean, if I take my socks off.
Need a wingsman.
Do what?
My guys need to consult with sex workers. This is part of our role in society. Is, hi, you need the super secret decoder book to how to make your woman happy and satisfied? We will teach you how to openly communicate. We will set you up on amazing dates. We will give you all the details to please her in the bedroom. And we will help raise your self-esteem, so this way you feel comfortable in the whole situation too. Like, yeah, we're kind of secret national treasures, if you ask me.
Well, okay, well, real quick, I want you to tell. I have your email on the screen, Alice Little at thealicelittle.com. I've got your social media going up in the top left corner above your left shoulder there, top right corner if you're looking at the screen. But how can people, if they want to get in touch with you, if they have questions or they want to reach out and maybe, use your services to help improve their sex life or whatever, do they just email you at alicelittle@thealicelittle.com?
Yeah, and you can learn a little bit more about who I am and what I
Hmm.
do on my website, which is thealicelittle.com. Right now, I do have my menu set up for all of my digital offerings since we are all practicing social distancing. Of course, the ranches are closed for however long
Mm.
it might be. And then, of course, if you're interested in spending time with me in person, once they do reopen, we can certainly do that as well.
Now you brought that up, and I don't want to get into your business, but I think you are a business. You're a brand. You're a business, and I can't imagine that this has been easy on you either, because like a lot of us, you make a living interacting with people. So have you just tried to do as much as you can virtually and online now, and pick up some of what you were doing face to face with people?
Yeah, I've pretty much pivoted everything that I was doing face to face to a digital atmosphere. So, for example, if someone wants to go for a walk with their dogs, like I'll leash up my dogs and I will get you on Skype and I'll have my phone and we will go for a walk together. If you want to have a picnic, like I will set up a picnic spread and tell you what I'm setting up, so this way you can set up the same thing on your end, or we can watch Netflix and chill. And then if somebody wants to get frisky, that's always an option as well. But I
Hmm.
mean, just because we can't be face to face doesn't mean that we can't be intimate and can't be emotionally vulnerable and enjoy connection.
So what are your thoughts? Because see, that's your rational thing to do for people that maybe don't have somebody in their life, or aren't happy with who they have in their life, and they're just looking to fill that void or that need. But what are your thoughts on some of the other stuff in your industry? And I say your industry, and maybe that was the wrong word. And feel free to be like, "Hey, dumbass, that's not." Feel free to correct me, Alice, at any point, because I'm a fucking idiot. So,
No worries.
but like you have these sex workers, like you cam soda, or you have sex workers that do the cam shows where they'll masturbate, or they'll do sex. Is that, do you feel like that's an affront to what you do, which is a little more intimate and personal and one on one, or are you like
Oh,
fucking do
not
your
at
thing?
all. No, not at all. Their sex work is kind of this big umbrella, and you figure with the umbrella, there's kind of these different spokes almost. So like you have porn stars, and you have sex educators, and you have sex workers, and you have cam girls, and you have pro dominatrixes, you have cam workers, you have phone sex operators. Like there is space under the umbrella for everyone, and there is no reason for anybody who occupies any of that adult space to try and like feed into this concept called the hierarchy, which is this idea that one type of sex work is better than some
Is that
other
a
type of
thing?
sex work. It's like it is the
Yeah.
hierarchy, like this idea that somehow, oh, dancers have less connection than an actual sex worker, or like a phone sex operator has less interaction than a cam girl, and that, oh, I'm better than this one, and no, this is better than that. Like, no, that's all bullshit.
Really? So
No.
that's a so well, that's interesting, because it is jobs and it is work, and I don't give a fuck what it is you do for a living. If you're a sex worker, or you're an accountant, or there's politics, there's cliques, there's a competition, there's backstabbing, and so I guess it would be no different. Have you had people in the industry kind of judge you, or because you are famous for being, at least in the last couple of years, the number one sex worker, right? The top grossing sex worker in the United States. So are they like, yeah, but I just danced, so I didn't have to do what she does. Is there that kind of judgment? Because it sounds like it. You immediately kind of
It,
snap
it
to the.
certainly can. It certainly can happen. It certainly has happened. And I really think that the community has really matured, especially in the last year or so. We have seen the different sectors of the sex work community rallying and supporting other sections. For example, the porn performers asked us to support them on some legislation that was going to make their jobs easier. The entire industry. Like I have nothing to do with porn, but I support them. I love what they are doing. And if this is going to make their lives better and that's what they're saying, I need to be an ally and support them.
Yeah. This is a weird. But what are your thoughts about getting married? Somebody asked that. Walt said, "What's
Oh
your
gosh.
thoughts about getting married?"
Hey, it's a personal choice. Some people really, really desire to have this one person, the monogamy concept. Personally, not for me so much. I identify as being polyamorous, which is kind of the antithesis of
Hmm.
monogamy. In monogamy, you have one person that you love that is the only person, whereas in polyamory, it's this idea that we have the capacity to love and have these deep feelings for more than one person. And I very much so find myself in multiple relationships. Like every time I get to connect with one of my guests, that's a relationship that's being
Hmm.
forged between myself and this other person, and we get to define what the nature of that relationship is and what it looks like. Is it like a provider? What does that look like? And the beauty of my world is I get to very much so choose what I want my relationships to look like without those like hard religious morality limitations.
Do you think that if you weren't polyamorous, if you were a little more traditional, that it would be more difficult to do what you do? Because you see people in the sex industry, whether they be dancers or porn or whatever, and you hear about stories of jealousy and relationships because a lot of people aren't polyamorous, but that's their job. That's what they do. Would it be harder for you to do what you do if you
I
were
don't
just.
I don't necessarily think it would be harder in the sense that with clear, honest communication, I feel like most barriers can be overcome, regardless of what it might be. Like, a lot of folks right now in the medical field are isolating themselves from their families, husbands sleeping separately from their wives, wives staying away from their husband, mothers keeping away from their children, and having to distance themselves because they're working in these hospitals where these COVID patients are, and they know that there's this exposure risk, but they're still able to figure out how to make things work through communication, through finding other ways of spending time together. And I feel like there's really nothing that we can't overcome with quality communication, understanding, and kindness.
You take somebody like me who is an immature fucking like imbecile, and you make me sit down and have these rational adult conversations. And that's the beauty of what you do, Alice. You're mature about it. You realize that a lot of us are going to be like when we first talk to you, but then by the end we're like, yeah, I that's like you have this amazing gift to do that, and we're all better for it. And
Well,
this has
thank
been
you.
outstanding. Now, before I go, let me peruse the chat. If you have a question, you better get it in fast because I don't want to keep
Last
her all night. I
chance.
I promised her an hour, and we're over already. So I don't want to make her like fuck. I got sex toys to go review. By
Gotta
by the
know,
way,
I gotta run to the bar, Barry.
you're
I
so
got a real
busy.
busy night happening. It's a
I
Friday
did want
night.
to.
I gotta go live it up and have a nightclub in my living room.
Do you do like the unboxings? Because on like YouTube, you'll have where they'll be like, oh, here's a new camera, and they unbox it. Do you do those, or is it just
Yeah,
you?
I've done reviews, unboxing. I do general sex education. I go live every single Thursday, 10:30 a.m. PST for Coffee with Dallas, which is kind of my sex and coffee morning show, and it's a lot of fun. There's all sorts of stuff on there. Like I've got a series that's literally just called Ask a Sex Worker, where I'm just drawing questions out of a box that people have left in the comments and answering them in real time. Like I don't read the question and then answer it. Like, no, we're doing this like on the darn spot.
That is so great. That is so great. And okay, so I knew some of these questions were going to be ridiculous, but I feel like you haven't
Let's do it.
heard. Yeah. Okay.
I love
I'm
your
trying.
face. You're just like,
I'm like these fucking guys. Some of them are dumb as shit. Okay, here's a good one. AR Platinum. I can always count on AR Platinum. He's also a YouTuber. You're a YouTuber. He's a YouTuber. So I can count on him to be mature on these. How did the death of Dennis Hoff affect the Bunny Ranch and the industry as a whole? Thank you, AR Platinum, for a very mature question.
and that's a great one too. Dennis passing was very significant because not a lot of people realize this, but he was one of the very first champions of women's rights within the industry. Back when he first got into this world, back in 1990, when he purchased the Bunny Ranch, they had some really restrictive policies in place. Things like ladies not being allowed to go home at the end of the night and having to stay at the location for the entire duration that they were working. And he took real offense to a lot of those things, and he very much so changed the narrative to make it rather than girls, 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 but like empowering, where the girls got to feel fantastic about what they were doing. They're business women who are running small businesses, no different than any other small business owner. And by the time that he passed, he kind of set the stage for the women to really take the forefront in the industry, and it's become very, very women-led and women-focused now.
That's great. That's a great answer to a really good question. Now, I scrolled back a little bit while you were talking about that, and apparently I missed it. But when we were talking about the G spot, Hugo was like, "No, no, 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 no! Let her tell us where the G spot is." Is there
Right,
a way?
I'll teach you the Konami code for the G spot. Right.
Okay,
It's not
okay,
that
good.
bad
Tell
yet.
us where it's at.
Put your hand out. Like literally just put your hand out, and then you're going to flip it over, and you're going to curl your last two fingers in, so you just have your index and middle finger.
Okay.
And that kind of come here motion is the exact motion you want to be doing inside your partner. So you'll go in with the two fingers, and then you'll do that kind of come here motion where you're curling up, and then you kind of pull the hand out at the same time. And that's it.
Okay.
That's the
So
Konami code to
it's-
reach the G spot.
That's easy. That's because I always heard about the come hither motion. I thought that was just a. But okay, so that is a thing
It's a
you can
real
do.
thing. Yep,
Okay.
because you figure the G spot kind of sits in and up, kind of like almost a C shape. And so the only way you're going to reach it is if you kind of do one of these numbers.
Because it is like you said. That's what I learned. It was more C shaped. It was almost up and in. But so I was like, well, why isn't it called the C spot? And my mom was like, because it was named after Grafendorf or something like that. It's the Graffen spot or something. I don't remember what the name was that found it. Apparently, he was the only one that could find it.
I don't remember either.
Yeah.
It's the G spot. That's where it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll tell you right now, if you're like, oh, that seems really easy, it is. And trust me, you'll get lots of feedback from your partner when you're in the right spot. Don't worry. They'll know.
All right, Hugo wants to know, what do I do tonight to spice things up? Well, just tonight. What one thing that everybody listening to this chat right now could go do, because we're not having picnics at 8:20 on a Friday night or 6:20.
It's true, but what you can do tonight,
Go find the G spot. Go find the G spot, guys.
That, but even beyond that, start a conversation.
Okay, you just lost everybody.
Giving your partner pleasure, either with your hands or your mouth or a toy. Ask her to describe how something feels. Not, do you like it? Do you like it? No, but like, what does that feel like? How does that feel for you? Like, describe it. And she might be like, oh, it feels kind of like pins and needles. And then now you've created an opportunity where you're able to learn more about how your partner experiences pleasure and what they enjoy more. So you can kind of like figure out where their sweet spots are and really key in and become like this amazing lover for them. And then you're able to do the same thing in turn, where now you're able to give feedback while they're giving you pleasure. And now all of a sudden you've opened up communication in the bedroom and you have like the best sex life. Like, I'm telling you, it might not seem like super spicy, like, oh, go impress her with the dildo, but like, I'm telling you,